Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Liberty Libations. My name is Jake Green. Today we have a special guest with us, a potential presidential nominee, Mr. Mike Ter Maat. How you doing today?
It's a great pleasure to be with you. You guys have some ass-kicking introductory footage there. I'm really impressed.
A lot of flames.
Trying to up the production value a little bit. We're going to get all these guys good cameras too, so they don't look like Rube gamers.
I'm waiting on getting that good mic as soon as
you may have to
Jeffrey
say
gets
the same
back to me.
thing that I say to all my team is that there's only so much we're working with here. Don't blow too much on the camera. You may still be disappointed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Alden definitely feels that way.
Yeah, I don't want a good camera, honestly.
Some of us look better with low quality work.
Yeah, dim light over here.
Yeah. What is so I didn't actually have time to get a libation. Is everybody drinking tonight, or is it just Alden?
No, I am. I'm got
double fisting. Yeah.
The Angels envy tonight.
Ooh,
Here,
nice.
Jake, I got one for you. That's all right.
Thank you. Yeah, you get wasted for me so I can host the show. That's perfect. Mike, if you were to have a drink with you, what would you be drinking?
I would probably be drinking tonic and lime because I don't typically drink past a certain hour.
Perfect.
Yeah. Heartburn or for real? That was for me.
I have learned over the years that alcohol and I are best going in two different directions.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I've kind of discovered that over the last few months as well. I
cannot resist a dark beer.
Okay. Yeah, mine's Guinness. I have a Guinness in the fridge right over there, but didn't have time.
And you had dark beer at the Georgia convention.
Yes, I did. Yeah, it's fantastic.
They have a non-alcoholic Guinness. It's not bad, actually.
Yeah, somebody brought it. Buddy brought it to the convention.
Buddy, Buddy, I don't think drinks.
Yeah, I'm just not sure about a non-alcoholic Guinness. That sounds like heresy.
It doesn't sound wrong. Like, why didn't they rebrand it with a different word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it sounds offensive to Irish people.
Someone's tearing apart Dublin as we speak. Like,
well, Mike,
now, if they had labeled it as something English, that would be funny.
That would be funny. That would be pretty dang great. Yeah, a little dig at their overlords. Mike, a few of us in here got to see one of your speeches. Got to see your speech at the Georgia convention. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very like personal and intimate in that room. Like you really almost stood in the crowd to give your speech. Can you tell people just a little bit about like what you're running on and why you chose to run?
That's a really nice way of saying they only gave me a small room. Yeah. Well, I'm in it. I think in particular, I'm in it because I think that I can help move the party in the direction I believe that we absolutely need to go to take advantage of the opportunity we have. I think we need to run a very professional campaign. I think that we had to lead with policy. I think that we have to avoid the mistakes that we've made in the past, which is to say we have to avoid trying to seek common ground with Democratic and Republican politicians. I believe that we can seek common ground with Democratic and Republican voters, but we should not be trying to seek common ground with their politicians. We need to cleave a hard edge against them. And so I'm running on a platform of the most transformational ideas that in no way, shape, or form will be confused with anything that'll come out of the mouths of Republicans or Democrats. We call it the Gold New Deal. We're sort of making fun of the FDR New Deal, obviously, and the AOC Green New Deal. Each their own horrific mess. But we call it the Gold New Deal. We call it a reimagining of the relationship between us and government, which is what we believe needs to happen. We believe that we need fundamental change, not just changing the politicians at the head of the agencies, but to change the agencies themselves. And in many cases, get rid of the agencies. So our positions and our policies, our platform, very different, not only from other libertarians, but obviously very, very different from the politicians outside of our party.
Nice. Just a little bit of libertarian interest. What would be the first thing that you would cut in office?
Your paycheck.
Perfect. I don't make much, so that's not a problem.
All right. Well, we're not going to save a lot of money there. I think that there's a number of things that you have to do. You know, speaking of cutting, we need an across the board budget control mechanism. When I was in the White House 100,000 years ago, we had budget control law in place from 1989 and 1990, and that wasn't a silver bullet. It didn't work perfectly, and obviously it didn't last all that long, but it was a useful tool to try to control congressional spending a little bit. We need something like that back in place so that if people spend too much, you get across the board haircut, which is a little bit easier for politicians to sign on to. Overspending at the federal level is where a lot of bad stuff comes from. That's where the excuse to tax comes from. That's where the debt comes from, obviously. And that's where the Federal Reserve's monetary policy so often plays an unfortunate role in monetizing all of that overspending. So spending is the root of a lot of evil in the government. Specifically, talk about agencies that need to go. As you all probably know, I spend a lot of time talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve System. And that's because of, first of all, discretionary monetary policy, but their regulatory platform has to go. We have to keep them from issuing crypto, digital currencies. That's got to be stopped. And we need to stop this silly business of them having so much discretion over their balance sheet and bailing out institutions and changing policy as they go. That's all got to stop. So the Fed is a major target right away. And that means appointing, new governors to the system that'll get it a little bit under control. And then after probably a 2-year period, you would move legislation to replace their monetary policy. So it's a real entangled stepwise process. Other agencies that need to go include, as a former cop, I spent a lot of time talking about the FBI because I think that it's in, a fundamentally institutional level mess. It would be hard to argue these days that the problem with the Fed, with the FBI, there's a Freudian slip.
The Fed and the Feds, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with the FBI, it would be hard to argue is just merely a matter of who's in charge. If you've got problems with trust and adhering to the law and not overstepping your reach every decade, at some point you got to say, you know what? It's not a matter of bringing in a new batch of idiots. The organization is out of control structurally. So I would break it up into pieces. I would send one piece to the Defense Department. I would send one, the
FBI has been out of control forever, though. I mean, just look at what J. Edgar Hoover did from the start.
Boy, you're so right. I mean, right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he had a file on all the politicians, just blackmailing them, get his way, stay in power there.
So, right from the get-go, it was set up wrong. All that political stuff I would get rid of. I would send the bread and butter anti-crime stuff to the states that want to pick it up. And the anti-espionage stuff I would hand over to the Defense Department. If they want to, pursue it, they can. I don't think that's a silver bullet, but at the very least, you could argue the Defense Department is less politicized, at least today, at the moment, right? At 8:00 Eastern time, the Defense Department is less politicized than the FBI is.
Yeah, I would agree. You got to meet, had you met Chase Oliver before the convention?
Yeah, we go to a lot of conventions at the same time, so we've had plenty of opportunity to interact. I think he's a good guy. I like Chase a lot, and he's been very kind and very professional, not only with me but with my family on site. So I appreciate that very much.
If it came down to it and it was just you two up for the nomination, would you consider a Jello wrestling match with Chase?
No.
Why not?
There are just a lot of other people that I feel are more appropriate for me to Jello wrestle with.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
For example, if you had asked me, would I Jello wrestle with Donald Trump? I got to be. That's a yes. I got to be all over that.
Interesting.
I just don't feel, and to be honest, Jake, I think our party has gone down the wrong direction. The internecine, intra-party Jello wrestling is not a good look. I think that needs to be set aside for inter-party decision making. Gotcha. I feel bad because I'm not sure that Joe Biden, could go 3 rounds in the Jello mold with me.
He would just start eating the Jello. He wouldn't.
Yeah, that's my opinion on what would happen.
That's a problem. But I would go straight for the Donald. I mean, if it were the 3 of us in there, I think you got to go after the Donald first, because you don't want to be wrestling with the old man when the Donald comes up from behind.
What if it's DeSantis instead? He announced yesterday.
Now he's going to be a tough competitor. He's younger than I am. He's got darker hair. I got to say that's going to be a competitor. And he was in the service. He was in the service. I respect that all day long. But I was a cop for 11 and a half years, so I'm pretty sure I can hold my own in Thunderdome.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, I think he would try to give a speech beforehand, and maybe that might just put you to sleep. So he might actually win that. He's just so unbelievably boring.
That's a problem. Now I got to ask too, more about the venue. What flavor are we going with? What color?
Oh, interesting.
Well, if it were lemon, then the Libertarians would have home field advantage.
Good point. We got to push for lemon.
Lemon, God, that's disgusting. Who wrestles in lemon Jello?
Yeah, you got to wrestle green.
Raspberry, that's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who wrestles in any?
Oh yeah, that's the problem, is the color. Now it's weird. Okay, now you've gone too far.
Well, Mike, down at the Great Create, how was your experience down there mixing and mingling with all the Georgia folk?
It was excellent, and I do appreciate the label of Great Create, in the sense that you could choose, which groups that you wanted to go to, which speakers you might be interested in. I sat on Reed Coverdell, for example, and really enjoyed that. It's fun too, because you don't see eye to eye with everybody, right? And that's the libertarian way. You go to talks where you're going to agree with everything. You go to talks where you're not going to. But you punch each other in the face and you go have a dark beer on the lawn and watch the umbrellas get blown away by the storm. That's not a convention like most formats, but it's a good time. Whatever you people like in Georgia, I'm willing to go along with it. I went to see John Mons. That was a real treat. I had never met him in person, and so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to that one. I think we were actually having the live Liberty Libations at the time. So
that was the thing. I was trying to go to.
Sorry, I chose him over you guys. Now I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, I tried to do as many as I could, but I looked at the schedule and was like, I wanted to go there, and it ended up being going to 3 or 4 things total and missing all the big names and everything, just because I was just hanging out with everyone I never see.
Yeah, you can't get to everybody. It was a lot. It was arguably too much, but that's why it was spread over a couple of days like that. So I thought it was a real successful event. It was an opportunity for us to show people that we care first and foremost, care enough to be there, right? I think our message was fairly well received. I think we had a good couple of days. And like I say, the most important thing is that Nancy had a good time. That's really the bottom line for me.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we pulled a lot of people who aren't even involved in the party there, at least on that Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
That gave us an opportunity to talk. I was talking to 2 guys who were from up in the Sandy Springs, Fulton area, and was like, oh, well, you guys should go hang out with these guys whenever they have, their monthly get together, and just hang out and come see what's going on. So, always a chance to recruit and see where people are. And just interesting to see people who you wouldn't expect to find this sort of thing to come, from Sandy Springs. That's what, a 2-hour drive, 3 hours in traffic.
Right.
Yeah. No,
well, a fun convention is a real useful recruiting vehicle. I think a lot of states miss that opportunity. Not every state recognizes it as a recruiting vehicle like you guys do. And for that reason, I think you guys will be successful in the future.
And I hope so, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a good melding of a bunch of different worlds, and kind of showing, I don't know, there's something about libertarianism. We talked about it a little bit last week, I think, where it's libertarianism isn't easy, and you kind of got to earn it. And it's helpful to have a bunch of skills, bunch of knowledge, and not just be a specialist and stuff in order to be a little more free. And rather than rely on other people to do a whole bunch of stuff for you.
Yeah, that's well said. There is a little bit of an effort there. And, the opposite of what I sometimes call intellectual laziness. It's hard to be a libertarian and completely intellectually lazy at the same time. You got to put in a little bit of effort. You can't rely on, fill in the blank, what your neighbor's going to tell you, what the television's going to tell you. What some goofball podcaster is going to tell you, of course.
I would also add, culturally or socially or psychologically lazy too, because it takes a lot of sort of self-awareness and work to be able to be ostracized or to be outside of the majority. And we're hardwired as social beings to be accepted by the group. And when you're not, that's a pain point that I think evolutionarily a lot of people try to avoid unconsciously.
Yeah,
I think you're so right, and that is well said. It's a real challenge. There are those who would point at our party and say that explains why we have the people inside the party that we do.
And that may be right.
It's people that are prone to having been ostracized.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time.
Yeah. Alden, that statement about wanting to be part of the group, wanting to be accepted by your community, that I think that's a lot of why libertarians try really hard most of the time to focus on local stuff, because if you're the people in your immediate neighborhood aren't on board with what you're trying to get at, then it's never going to happen for you in that place.
So then there's the perception of community, and when we base it on the media and the broader national sort of circus of community, exactly, then that's sort of an illusion of community. And then when you get boots on the ground and you get real things, or when you get the Great Create and you get people together and you're like, oh, we do have common denominator type beliefs and things like that, and that can be really helpful. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And I've heard you say, Mike, that a lot of people have libertarian leanings, and they might not even realize it, until they start having a conversation about it. But then they still vote.
I still think that that's really true and really important, and you've got to be able to tap into that without pushing them off, with the threatening transformational ideas without backing them up. So you got to be ready to explain, don't throw yourself out the window quite yet. We're not going to take Social Security out from under you, Grandma. But what we also refuse to do is to force Sonny or grandson into a program that promises him a crappy rate of return, no alternative, no flexibility, no option. We're going to start out with an option for him not to participate. You get where I'm going. There's a way to explain these things without it sounding so threatening. And at the same time, tell people, no, Social Security is evil. That's why I'm not going to force your grandchildren into it.
Yeah, I guess to communicate the ideas in a way that kind of gets them beyond the platitudes, because there have been a lot of surveys where the first question is generally, do you want to cut government spending? And everybody's like, yeah. But then they go through 10 different government programs, and they're like, well, do you want this? Do you want to cut that? And they're like, no, of course not. We need that. So it's easy to say, it's kind of easy to have opinions that are vaguely libertarian, but it's kind of, you got to communicate to them in a way that gets them beyond, gets them to actually commit to their, what their libertarian leanings are.
Yeah, that's really well said. That's really important. And the same applies for their congressperson too. They hate Congress and love their congressperson, which is really weird. When it's something tangible and right in front of them, they don't have the heart to throw it overboard. But
What is that they say? Like,
it's everyone else that's the problem, not their guy.
Yeah.
Right.
You can have the least
Nancy
successful...
Pelosi, beloved by all.
Yeah. Like
Diane,
no other job.
That's
can
a senator, but Dianne Feinstein. Do you see those pictures of her?
You love her. She's your favorite.
I was doing a little bit of, so Mike, last week, one of our audience members asked us about Gloria Alvarez down in Guatemala running. And so I was doing a little bit of research on her, and she's an
interesting character.
Yes, she's super interesting. And she had an interesting approach to like introducing people to like individual liberty. And because she found it through reading Ayn Rand. And so in order to, she would not mention anything about freedom, liberty, capitalism, anything. With people going into college, she would say, go read this book, The Fountainhead. And this is about a guy who's just trying to do right by his art. He's trying to perfect his craft.
Lead his life by his own standards.
The independent thinker,
without ever mentioning anything about libertarianism or freedom or liberty or anything like that, because what do we got here? It's like Stockholm syndrome. Gloria Alvarez is trying to save Latin America from socialism. And I don't know, I listened to a few podcasts with her today while I was on the road, and I found that approach super interesting. And Shane Hazel, during his campaign in Georgia, said something similar. He's like, when you're talking to your neighbors, don't say I'm a libertarian, because that's going to turn them off immediately.
Don't say you're a Republican or a Democrat or a libertarian. Don't start with the identity problem of that in general. I would think make people work for it to understand who you are and what you represent in a conversation in general. Libertarian goes the same way though. Yeah,
and have it apply to ask them questions about themselves and figure out where their biggest issues are, and
build a human rapport in a conversation, without the shortcuts, the stamp of things where people assign what other people have told them to think about libertarianism or Democrats or Republicans, not what is actually, they're going to arrive at on their own through the conversation.
That is so well said. And we know so many of the buttons to push that people do agree with us on, not the least of which is, for example, our anti-war message. I really believe that most Americans are ready for that in a much bigger way than they used to be. There are not examples that the American public would point to and say that military intervention was a good idea. In the last 50 years, very few Americans are going to point at Iraq or Afghanistan and say, notwithstanding the thousands of lives lost, hundreds of thousands of lives lost outside of Americans, and the trillions of dollars that we spent, notwithstanding all that, that was a good idea. That just is not going to happen. And yet you don't hear Republicans or Democrats delivering an anti-war message. This is common ground with Americans for us that we should be pursuing in a full-throated fashion. You're right. You don't have to say I'm a libertarian. Just say, you and I are on the same page. You're no fool when it comes to the way our government spends money, and I want to represent those values.
I think that's one of the biggest, as far as war goes, people forget, and people think that the current war or current, conflict will be different. And it's been proven over and over and over and over and over that you're always sold it on a bunch of lies. You're never told the full truth. People always try to perpetuate
Gulf
the problem.
of Tonkin, right?
Exactly. And
Gulf of Tonkin, holy cow.
People are always well, we have to go to the Ukraine. We have to help them, and we have to do all this stuff. And it's no, we don't. We didn't have to do it in Iraq. We didn't have to, we didn't have to do it all these places before.
We didn't have to do it in Vietnam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be hard to recognize when you're in the process of being propagandized, because when people are in history class and get taught about propaganda, they can think, well, that's something that happened in the past. We're obviously too smart to fall for that now.
It's different now.
Psychology is often the same, throughout, and there's certain percentile of people that are more sensitive to recognizing certain things. What was it, the Milgram experiment, the shock thing or whatever, and there was only 10, 15% of people that were no, I'm not going to push that button kind of thing. That percentage is probably...
else did what they were told.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know, Alden, you wouldn't push the button if it meant Zach getting shocked, right?
Well, Zach, I would, but no.
All right,
okay,
Zach, you
no.
might.
No.
Well, right. There was, well, along those same lines, there was like a Netflix special. I don't know if you ever saw that, where they tried to convince a guy to kill someone.
Wow, what? No.
You ever see that?
No.
What?
Yeah, it's on Netflix by Darren Brown, and yeah. So what they did was like they found someone they thought would be predisposed. So like, you know, they had a couple plants and they brought people in for interviews one by one, like into
Was
the
this
room. And
FBI training? Because it sounds like FBI training.
No, but so the way it started in the interview is
training.
you see the plants sitting there, and you know, they were told every time the bell rings, either stand up or sit down. Like you know, if you're sitting down, stand up. If you're standing up, sit down. And then like the actual people were brought in, and they'd come in, they'd sit down, and everyone else would stand up, and then they'd sit down. And so they started joining in, and they eventually took the plants out and brought other people in who had no idea, and everyone was just eventually.
And eventually, there's no one in the room.
Like the people who were going along with it without knowing why were the ones that they started selecting.
They were the leaders.
This was the monkey experiment too. We went out, we played a whole video.
And then
I was going to reference that too.
And then through the whole course of the of like a night, they set up this whole crazy scenario where like one thing escalates after another, and after another, to the point where it's like you're going to get in so much trouble if you just push him off the side of the building right now, otherwise, and it'll just be an accident and you'll be fine. And
this is how hypnosis tends to work.
I won't reveal how this happened, but yeah, it was just this escalating series of events.
Yeah,
just an interesting.
It is not completely different from how our military, you know, our interventionist and projection of power types of policies have evolved from one generation to the next.
Yeah.
You're right.
Keep pushing the boundary.
Keep going. You know, you come out of World War II feeling like you're the baddest dude on the block, and all of a sudden, you know, now you're actually looking for enemies, so that you can internally sell your message to the American public to keep the expenditure going. It's pretty sick stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Fabricating reasons for war. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're about 30 minutes in. Zach, I think it's trivia time, buddy. Let's
trivia.
Let's roll that sucker.
Trivia.
All right. So
you guys are nothing if not beasts with the imagery.
So tonight, sadly, I do not have our usual. Zach, you can take the Libations trivia off because I don't have anything to present up here. So we can just, there we go.
It's spoken word trivia, yeah.
Jake is unprepared.
I'm sorry I got stuck in traffic for 2 hours. That's my bad. Okay, this is how it's going to go. It's going to be only 2 rounds tonight. 10 questions the first round, 5 questions the second round.
Are they all worth the same number of points?
In the first round, they're all worth 1. Second round, they're worth 2. Okay?
Got it.
I'll read off who's winning at the end of, after every question. All right. First round is all about U.S. presidents, the history of the U.S. presidency. Since Mr. Mike Ter Maat is on the stream with us tonight.
Do we shout out our answers, or do we take turns? How this work?
You have to put your hand up to the camera to get called on. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. I love everybody practicing. This is perfect.
I always got to find where my camera is.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to reach the wrong spot. It's the green light on the top of your computer, Alden.
Yeah. Zach, that's too loud, buddy. We got to drop it down to 5. There we go. Yeah, keep it at 5, man.
Are we including the Articles of Confederation? Brian asks.
Articles of Confederation and what?
The presidents, like technically the first president of the U.S. was named John Hanson because he was the first under the Articles.
That was probably a question, Zane.
No, it probably was not. So these questions these questions are brought to you by ChatGPT, and we're gonna dive right in. Which U.S. president served as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court after leaving office? Zane.
Taft.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yep. Zane got a point.
Did you hold up your hand?
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was
fast.
Oh, I got beat because I was too slow.
I haven't met Zane in person.
I knew Taft. Taft was a friend of mine. John Taft.
I think Zane is Chat GPT. I don't trust him. I don't think he's a real person.
I would almost
do that
agree.
that fast.
He's just that good. It's kind of embarrassing for everybody else. So, on to question
I'm
2.
I'm gonna have my hand ready to go. Can I do
That's the
2
trick.
hands?
Fastest hand in Virginia.
Whatever works for you, I'm a fan of. So, who was the first U.S. president to be born a U.S. citizen? Zane.
Van Buren.
Zane got
Oh
it.
my goodness.
Is that true?
Jeez.
Zane's an ass. Zane's gonna be banned.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna ban
Born a
Zane from
U.S.
trivia.
Oh, so he had to have been born after
The declaration.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how would you figure that out on such short notice? You'd have to
I
know
knew
how
it.
old they were.
I knew it cold.
All right, question.
This is
3.
how trivia goes every time. Yeah.
Every
This is
time.
terrible.
Yeah.
Which-
Oh yeah.
Which president's wife served as both first lady and acting first lady during his presidency?
Acting first.
What does that even mean?
You figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. I guess.
Hey, Zane
Can
doesn't know
you
this
use
one.
it in a sentence?
This is just a weird.
It's a
This is
weirdly
like a
phrased
lot.
question.
This is like a logic puzzle.
Go, Mike.
Lincoln.
Nope.
No.
Alden.
Clinton?
No.
I'm just throwing things out.
Zane.
Wilson.
No. Nick, you get to go, buddy.
Let's shit. I'm trying to think who it would be.
Yeah, everybody's trying to think who it would be.
I lost my answer. I had something that made no sense, but let's go Andrew Johnson. I don't know.
The answer is Grover Cleveland. His wife, Frances Cleveland, was the youngest first lady and served in both roles during non-consecutive terms.
What is
What's that got to do with being acting first lady?
You
Because
know,
she wasn't married the first time to him.
I believe that's correct.
Oh,
I think RK is right that she was his cousin.
She was his cousin, and then she was his wife.
I believe that's correct.
There's no way RK is correct on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
I'm pretty sure.
RK is rarely wrong. So.
I'm pretty sure he's right about that.
I should have said Trump because acting, like not really wife, like mail
I
order
figure
bride.
it was acting because it was someone who was assassinated, and she hung in there after he was gone.
I thought that as well, and then apparently, not the case. But
I was also trying to think of who was before Buchanan, since he was the only bachelor president. But
is he really the only?
Yeah.
Rumors are he was gay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Those
All
are
right.
the rumors floating.
And a
around
strong
there.
argument for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Question 4. Who was the first U.S. president to be impeached?
Oh,
Zane.
Clinton.
Wrong.
no.
Nick.
Oh shoot, that's
Andrew Johnson.
Nick got it right. Andrew Johnson.
I knew that. I
Nice.
forgot.
All right. Question 5. Which daughter served as his White House hostess because he was a widower?
I missed the first part of that.
Which
Yeah.
president's daughter served as his White House hostess because he was a widower?
Yeah.
I
I think it was Chester Arthur.
Wrong. Nick.
don't even know who Chester Arthur
Andrew
is.
Jackson.
Wrong.
He just keeps saying.
No, I said Jackson this time, not Johnson.
Oh.
Zane, go.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Nope. Alden, you get 10 seconds to answer, and then it
Are
opens
you
back
sure
up.
it wasn't Chester Arthur?
I'm sure it wasn't Chester Arthur.
John Adams. I don't know. I have no idea.
Nope. Open to the floor. Y'all have 10 seconds. Nick.
Jefferson. I don't know.
Thomas Jefferson. Nick got it right.
Oh,
Was he?
Could
His
you look it up?
daughter,
No.
Martha Jefferson Randolph, fulfilled the role. Zach, you can pull up the if you want to.
I didn't even know
proof.
he was
You can do
ever
that.
president. Or no, Franklin was never president.
Franklin
Yeah.
was never president. Oh, Alden.
Jefferson.
This
did
is
the
how much I
Louisiana
know.
Purchase.
Yeah. I'm an artist. I don't know.
All right. Next up, number 6. Who was the only president to have a PhD?
That looked like Mike. Oh.
Yeah, I think I was there.
No, it was Mike. It was Mike. Sorry.
I saw Mike.
Wilson.
He is correct. Woodrow Wilson, coincidentally, our worst president of all time.
It's not a coincidence. If you've got a PhD, you're an idiot.
I think he's right. I think it's not a coincidence. I'm going to go with that.
All right. Question number 7 of round 1.
I'm inviting everyone to check out my bio on MikeTermaat.com.
All right. Which president holds the record for the shortest time in office? This is an easy one.
Oh,
Zane.
Harrison.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Yep.
Was he the one stuck in a bathtub, or is he the one that got the bad cold on Inauguration Day?
He got a cold, like he died like 30 days in. Yeah.
Because of Inauguration Day.
Yeah.
I heard that the story of him catching pneumonia at his inauguration is actually a myth, and that it was actually unrelated.
Huh.
Zane, how do you know this level of detail?
Zane, you're banned.
He knows the story, and he knows the backstory that no one else knows.
He actually died of COVID. That's a whole different story.
All right.
Zane has to go backstage from now on when we do trivia.
That would be more fair. Maybe
he should write questions.
Vaccine.
Maybe Zane should be in charge of trivia. So
on Inauguration Day, they vaxxed him, and 30 days later, he was gone.
You'll get us kicked off YouTube.
That's okay. We're gonna get kicked off YouTube.
We've done it before.
Oh, look, Jake's gone already.
Yeah.
Right. Here we go. Question number 8. Who was the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital?
What?
Yeah. Zane.
I'll go Gerald Ford.
Nope.
Oh, it's got to be someone earlier than that.
Nick.
Let's go Calvin Coolidge.
Nope.
FDR.
Mike. Nope.
FDR. I was going to wealth there.
Yeah, fair. Alden.
Lincoln?
Nope.
I was born in Log Cabin. Come
10
on.
seconds. 10 seconds, yeah.
Lincoln was neither born nor died in a hospital.
Zane.
That's fair.
Richard Nixon.
No. Good time period, though.
Really? Oh, no, really? I'm way off.
Nixon's the
Jimmy
right
Carter.
time period?
What's that?
Nixon is the right time period?
Yeah,
That's
Nick, I think
crazy.
you got it right. What'd you say?
I said Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
When you said the time period, that's what came to mind, but I would never have guessed.
I can't believe it's that late.
That's
That's
incredible.
All right. Question number 9 in round 1. Who was the first president to be born outside of the original 13 colonies?
Oh,
Zane.
Taft.
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson is correct.
Oh, is that right?
Yep. He got it in 2 seconds. That is just so stupid. This is, I mean, I got to come up with, I just got to ask questions about movies so that Zane doesn't get anything right.
I was going with Ohio there, and no, Jackson's a good guess. I don't remember where Jackson was born, though. Tennessee?
Tennessee, yes.
He was actually born in Tennessee?
No, he was born in North and South. He was, wait.
Kentucky?
Interesting. He was born in the Waxhaws region. Oh, yeah. So it is Tennessee. On the
It's
border,
what is now Tennessee.
just on the other side of the
It's
border.
what is now
North
Tennessee.
Carolina. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, here's great trivia. Both of my Labrador retrievers crapped on the lawn at the Hermitage.
Perfect.
Noted.
All right.
Just saying.
For
All
a
right.
future round, yeah.
I'm gonna save
Future
that.
round. Which libertarian candidate had his dogs at the Hermitage take a crap because he was in a hurry?
All right. Final question of round 1. Who was the first U.S. president to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? Mike.
Obama.
Nope. Nick.
Let's go Clinton.
No. Zane.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt is correct.
Really? The Nobel Peace Prize?
He received
was
the
for
Nobel
the,
Peace Prize in
Portsmouth
1906
For
his
what? Kicking
for
the
his-
most ass in the Caribbean?
For the Parks
Portsmouth
thing, or-
Treaty for ending the Russo-Japanese War, I believe.
Oh.
That is absolutely correct.
Good Lord.
Wow, that's good trivia. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I like how they put it up there every time I doubt it. Someone says, don't doubt it. It's true.
All right. After round 1, Zane has 5. Nick has 3. Mike has 1. Alden with a big goose egg.
I have none.
The audience has a big goose egg as well.
As long as we don't lose to the audience.
This is rough.
I'm doing worse than I thought I was doing, even.
Well, you may have gotten answers right. You just didn't get them quick enough.
Oh. I thought I had one, but who's counting? Who cares?
You didn't, I promise.
Yeah, apparently not.
All right. Here are some. So round 2, 2 points per question, 5 questions. And these are very libertarian based. Who is considered the father of modern libertarianism?
How could you even have an answer to that?
Rothbard.
Murray Rothbard. What do you mean? How could you have an answer to that?
How could you have?
There's only one real answer.
There are 10 or 20 different people that could lay claim to that title.
They could lay claim,
one
but he's
really
considered. Okay, that's so obvious.
That's an interesting point.
All right. Well, not all of these have like ultimate finite answers. All right, we're just gonna leave it with that.
You have to guess what's in Jake's head.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Or ChatGPT.
Or chat. I was gonna say ChatGPT's head or head. Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Which economist is often associated with libertarian principles and is known for his advocacy of free market capitalism? Mike.
That's like
Mises.
Sure, that's correct. There's like 15 answers to that one.
You can't be wrong if you said Milton Friedman. You cannot be wrong if you said there is a road to serfdom.
Yep. No,
Elizabeth Warren.
I have like 3 or 4.
Elizabeth Warren is a great one.
Let's see. Hang on, I gotta find the question again.
Here's a bit of trivia that is even more worthless than my dogs crapping at Jackson's home. I once spoke to Liz Warren on the phone to invite her to speak at one of my conferences. This would have been in the late 90s. Because I wanted now this is not how I sold it to her, right? I was very respectful with her, of course.
You wanted an authentic Native American.
I was about to say the same thing.
That's what I was going for. I wanted someone who would join me in clapping on Jackson's front yard. No, the way I sold it was very respectful, but the way I sold it to my business partner was, we want to show our attendees how bad Washington really is when they come after us with regulation. It was a conference for financial services professionals, for bankers. And most of our attendees did not believe me how bad Washington was. And I wanted to bring her on and just, just do your thing. You just tell them what you want them to hear. And I figured they would get it. And she declined. She said that she couldn't make it. She was very professional and gave me a good substitute.
That's good, I guess. At least she was professional. AOC has a degree in economics. This should disturb you. Goodness gracious.
It disturbs me that you know that.
All right, question number 3. Who is considered, Zane, who is considered the father of classical liberalism and an influential figure in the development of libertarian philosophy? Zane.
I guess I'll go Hayek on that one.
Wrong.
Milton.
No. Think older. Much older. Nick.
John Locke.
John Locke is the correct answer.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I don't even think there's a debate with that one. I mean, I think somebody could try to debate it, but honestly, he a lot of what he preached.
Founder and father, yes. As long as you couch it that way, it's okay. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's
let's see. Sorry. In 1972, which country became the first to elect a libertarian political party to parliament, challenging the dominance of the 2 major parties? Alden.
England?
Nope.
I heard parliament, so.
Yeah.
Fair. Zane.
Australia?
No. Nick.
That's what I would have said too.
Canada.
I thought I was the only one that said that.
Not Canada.
72.
Yeah. All right.
Is parliament being used generically here, or is it
no?
actually to
He would use the correct word.
Yeah. Never question ChatGPT.
Right.
Let me make sure it is.
You see, the thing is, we're looking for a country that doesn't have, 5 parties. It doesn't necessarily have to be English speaking. It could be Northern European.
I'll give you a hint. Actually, I'm not going to give you a hint.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got 10 seconds. Nick.
It's not India.
I'm going to guess France. I don't know.
No. Closer, though. Alden.
Closer.
Oh, well, if it's close, I was going to say New Zealand, and that is not close to France. So.
That's not close.
No, it's not the right time period for.
I have no clue.
Portugal.
No, and what'd you say, Zane?
Italy.
Nope. The answer is Switzerland.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have known.
Yeah. I mean, how would you?
How many nations have a parliament, even?
Dozens.
Most of them in Europe. Yeah.
Really?
Almost everyone.
I mean, I'm not surprised that I don't know this. So.
All right, we're going to see how far into this question I can get before a camera is covered. Which philosopher and novelist is known for her advocacy of Zane?
Rand.
Yes.
Oh, that's not fair. I want to review the tape on that. My hand was coming in from the side.
All right, y'all. At the end of 2 rounds, we have Zane with 7. We have Nick with 7. We have Mike with 3. We have Alden and the audience tied for nothing.
Woo!
So I don't know.
This game sucks.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This game is very mediocre this week. But
I must say that Nick and Zane are quite good at this. Even when I know the answer, I can't get my hand up there fast enough, and that's
I keep it right here. That way,
Nick.
I basically go ahead, Zane.
I played a lot of Quiz Bowl in high school and college, so I
nice.
got that reaction time down.
What was that? What was that
I
one?
get it.
That Sporkle.
Sporkle was like the lists and stuff.
Yeah, Sporkle was great.
When you said you were going to do trivia, I was like, oh man, I'm excited because I'm usually good at like really random trivia, like what's a rhino's horn made of or whatever, but not political trivia. I am so bad with political trivia.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll have 3 rounds next week where we do completely random.
Now, didn't you say that whoever wins gets to pick? What was it? The theme for next week?
Or? The topic,
yeah. Topic. So Nick and Zane both get to pick a topic for next week. Since
apparently I'll never pick.
How are you going to decide? One of them gets round 1. One of them gets round. I mean, they tied. This is awkward.
So it's, for the trivia, it's not necessarily based on the theme. We generally have 3 topics that we cover right off the bat. But when we have
do you have a guest lined up for next week?
No, not yet. At least not that I know of. Zach might have somebody lined up. Or I'm sorry, Jamie might have somebody lined up.
I'm gonna do just like a sock puppet show.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe I'll just have my second camera and just have my hand, be talking as our special guest.
Yeah.
When there is no
what
guest,
you gotta do?
We're just left to our own devices to vamp for 2 hours, and nobody wants that.
No one wants that.
What you got to do, Jake, is have a tiebreaker question that is numerical.
The sudden death.
The answer wins.
Okay.
That way, someone almost always wins. Because tying is for losers.
All right.
Now you just have 2 losers. Yeah.
All right. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10.
5.
Zane and Nick. Okay. What's your guess?
Alden, you're not going to let us participate.
Yeah. I didn't even try.
I think the optimal move here is to go with 5, especially if you go first. Because if you go second and the first person guessed on the low end, then you just guess 1 higher than they did.
Yeah, if you go first, you should always guess 5 because then it's a 50-50 shot. Whether the answer was 7, so Zane gets to pick.
See,
that's fine.
Mike, thank you for participating in our ridiculous.
You should go 0 to 10 so that there's not a middle.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. If you don't include 0, well, you got to make up your mind whether you're including 10 also.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian's
got a nice number there.
Oof, yeah. I guess I could go decimal points, but
I picked pi.
You said any number. You didn't even say it had to be a rational number, much less
pi.
integer.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
The golden ratio.
Look, y'all saw
1.618 or
y'all saw the quality of the trivia. So I don't know why you're expecting me to have all this stuff, nailed down, dialed
the trivia
in.
Wasn't bad. Just because I didn't get any of them right doesn't mean that I'm resentful.
Didn't you get? I thought you got more than me. I got apparently nothing. So I'm here for comedic relief and just to make everyone else feel better.
I got 3 points.
Speaking of,
speaking of the only reason I was relevant was making these two tie. I forced the runoff. That's all I can say.
Oh no!
Typical libertarian position.
There we go. I love it.
What a horrible parallel.
We've got a friend of the show, Captain in Capistan from Twitter, asks the question to you, Mike. Would you rather fight 20 house cats or 10 porcupines?
Wow. I think you got to go with the 10 porcupines because at least you'd have respect for them.
Yeah, the cats will destroy you. You don't want to fight 20 cats. That's crazy.
You don't want to fight 20 cats. And look, even if you did win, who are you going to tell that story to? Yeah, I beat 20 cats. Man, that doesn't carry a lot of water. But I kick the ass of 10 porcupines and be like, dude, let me buy you a beer.
Yeah.
That is a much better story. No one gives a crap if you fought off 20 house cats.
Right. Your girlfriend's going to hate you.
Yeah.
And, your brother is going to think you're pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
That's very true. So I mentioned earlier, Mike, that we one of the things that we were told to research by an audience member was Gloria Alvarez. What do you know anything about her? Like, do you have an opinion on her and what her?
No, not really. I've seen some of her stuff, and so I have every respect. Latin America is a place that has been in trouble for, I guess I would argue for 3 generations now, ever since soon after World War II. No, I'm not old enough to remember the 50s, but it has been in trouble. And one thing that you see about Latin America is that it is a place with deep social contagion. Ideas spread from one nation to another, and that's in a good sense and in a bad sense. The revolutions of the 19th century were an early and primary example. There was some capitalism that actually took hold in the first half of the 20th century. And then socialism took hold thereafter. Most people don't, this is something for your trivia for next week. Most people don't realize that Argentina, for example, I believe it was the 5th wealthiest nation in the world on a per capita basis around 1920. And it took a deep, deep dive coming out of World War II when socialism started to spread. And the reason I mention this is not just to say that Latin America is and has been in deep trouble, but a personality like hers is something that I'm really excited to see, how this chapter plays out. If she can catch fire, she can do a lot of good. So, we need to be optimistic, even though I know it seems like good things happening politically are few and far between. Let's be candid.
Yeah.
But if it is truly analogous to addiction psychology, you've got to reach rock bottom and admit you have a problem before you can climb your way out. And Angelo is exactly right. She is fantastic. And for this reason, we need to be praying for her.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing some interesting things in South America. I mean, Central America like that. I mean, we've also got El Salvador, which their embrace of Bitcoin is interesting. Bukele, I go back and forth on him because I don't know if I agree with his methods or what he's doing. But El Salvador has had so many issues, gang-wise and everything else.
Yep.
That is some of that necessary there to get the crime under control. Get the killers off the streets. I don't know, but
at rock bottom, if there's anything that government should be doing, and we can all argue about whether the answer to that is yes or no, whether government should be doing anything at all. But unless you're just an absolute stone cold, zeroed out anarchist, and if you are, I respect that all day long. But If you put your hand down, I'm so sick of seeing your hand go up faster than anything else. No, good for you. I really do respect that all day long. But if you're going to have a government, and they do, the one thing that you want your government to be able to do competently is keep you safe. It is true that the government of the United States was put together to protect your rights. And a piece of that is protecting from the government, and a piece of that is to offer a criminal justice system. I do believe you could develop a criminal justice system in a private sector mentality, but as soon as you decide people are going to come together for the purposes of agreeing on a criminal code, for example, and hiring people to enforce that, that is definitionally public sector. If there's anything that you want your government to be able to do, it's to keep people safe. And for this, the government of El Salvador has fallen flat on its face. And as much respect as we have for some of the other reforms they're trying to engage, it doesn't come to a hill of beans until you can stop, people from having a reason to flee because it's the only way they think they can keep their family safe.
So I've heard you, Mike, talk about like the drug war in our country, but do you think that in Central and South America, if we were to here end the drug war here, would that have a ripple effect down through South America?
Well, absolutely it would, in the sense that we would be taking away their bread and butter. Economically, we'd be taking away what it is the gangs live off of.
Right.
We have extended our police state abroad, in the sense that the U.S. government has pressured other governments into fighting. There's reason to look into fighting the cartels that manufacture and distribute and ship drugs elsewhere. And so we have our own, miniature versions of the war on drugs in an American style all over Latin America. Right?
Yeah.
And we create black markets the same way there that we do here. And it becomes very, very dangerous. And that's the problem in El Salvador. The problem is not drugs per se. The problem is the black market.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it could be a black market in Twinkies. It doesn't really matter. But once you
whatever's made illegal. Yeah.
Anytime you make anything that the culture is not ready to give up, but that you decide to make it illegal, you're trying to swim upstream from policy to culture. That doesn't work, and that's where black markets come from.
Yeah,
well, I've never seen a politician with that kind of hair, so I'm interested to see her.
Thank you. I appreciate that very
much. Look at that. It's very interesting. That doesn't look like somebody running for president of a country.
And maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, maybe not. Speaking of interesting candidates, what are RFK Jr. has been in the news quite a bit. He went to the Bitcoin conference, gave a great speech.
I thought his talk at Bitcoin was excellent. I thought he was right on point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry he's not a better public speaker, but his concepts
we talked about that. Exactly. That's basically what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
And it's not just his voice. I mean, we all recognize that he's got a voice problem, but I think that we could look past that a little bit. He's not a good public speaker in the sense that he's not engaged with his audience very well.
Yeah.
And for this reason, it comes off dispassionate. And I don't believe that he necessarily is. If he has any of his father in him at all, he's a passionate guy.
Yeah, he just lacks charisma, unfortunately, which in this country is, a big thing to come back from.
I mean, in every country, you have to have charisma.
You heard that he's speaking at Porkfest and tried to get them to ban guns from his talk.
Really?
Well, that's not going to go over well.
That didn't go over well.
I guess I won't be seeing it.
Yeah, that's not. It's not the best thing to request from a libertarian festival.
Not only just that, but I haven't been there. But they open carry ARs there. I mean, like,
well, of
that's
course they
common
do.
from what I hear.
It's dumb from a policy standpoint, and it's dumb from a political standpoint. There's two reasons right there.
Yeah.
But it's also dumb in the sense that, do you really think that's going to get enforced?
Right. No one's going to enforce anything about that at all.
Who's the dumb bunny who's going to volunteer for the job of telling everyone not to bring their guns in?
Yeah. No one. Not one libertarian would volunteer for that.
Not at Borkfest.
You're just going to get shat upon for
know your audience.
Entire
Not
time.
a smart Democrat would volunteer for that job.
Sorry, y'all. I think my internet's skipping out a little bit. I'm glad we have Jamie, producing for us.
AKA Jamie.
Calling him Zach.
I think our internet out in the sticks in Oklahoma is getting spotty right now. So if I zone out and if I can't do anything,
the other problem before you leave the RFK concept, and we do all appreciate his attitude toward collusion between the government and businesses,
namely big pharma recently,
particularly in the vaccine space and then the pharmaceutical space. His anti-corruption stances. We all appreciate that very much. The problem with RFK is that he's fundamentally a statist. And I mean that in the most loving sense.
Right, yeah.
That, he's a good government type. He wants government to work better. He doesn't want to get rid of it.
Right.
I saw a tweet from, what interests me is I think he's coming around a little bit, but on the environmental side, because that's where he's been for so long. And he said some really bad things that, looking back on it.
Wasn't he like an EPA
like he's come
lawyer?
Well, he said things like, people who deny climate change should be jailed, things like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This was like 2018, and, people in our circles keep bringing it up, and I keep
You don't have to be a Zane type anarchist to hate that.
Right. But I keep going back to it, and I keep saying, I'm like, hey, some big things something really big happened between 2018 and now. And then I saw today Gene Epstein tweet at Alex Berenson, because I think they had a discussion back around 2018 where he said some of this, and Gene Epstein, I saw this today, tweeted at Alex Berenson saying, hey, get RFK Jr. on and see if what he said he still holds up to, which would be fair. I mean, I saw an interview he did.
It is fair. Gene Epstein is going to be at Porkfest too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I think it was an interview with Kim Iverson that he did a couple weeks ago, and when asked on the environmental stuff, he said the free market was the answer, and we don't have a free market, and that he doesn't know a polluter who wasn't subsidized, and that's his first move is to cut the subsidies. And I'm like, there's nothing objectionable to that at all.
He is he's very interesting, like in a lot of regards. And like one of the things that he has said out loud that you will not hear a single other person who's run for president in either of the major parties over the last, I don't know, ever, is that if you show him the evidence, he will change his mind. And he's open to changing his mind at any given time.
That's fair, but fundamentally to have the stance he doesn't want to be opposed for his views against the vaccine or whatever, but then it's okay to say that you want to jail someone for saying something against climate.
No, my point was that people change over time, and I don't think people forgive enough because the internet is forever. And so, like, if you can always cite something from 5 years ago, even if that person has drastically evolved in those,
there was kind of a very, very big event that happened between 2018 and now that may have changed a lot of people's minds. So I'm open to a lot of things.
Yeah, my nephew was born. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
the whole world.
That's what we were referring to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it.
But you got to hold up your hand first and say, "My nephew was born."
Oh
today.
yeah, no, my nephew.
All right, sorry. We're just gonna put that.
The other thing worth mentioning about RFK, though, and I appreciate what Jake said about willing to change his mind with information and with data. The problem with a guy like RFK, who I really do believe is a good guy,
right,
but is a statist, is always looking for a way to make government better. He's going to naturally be a data guy, not an ethics guy, a principles guy. So, for example, if you were to show him data that said, if we took away everyone's guns in Maryland, we would save lives. and he would say, okay, let's do it.
Right.
That's the problem with being a good government guy driven by data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's presenting the data, and how do you skew the data? And there's a bunch
and looking for government.
Okay, but let me give you another example. Let me exaggerate to make my point.
Sure.
If you had a vaccine that was perfect,
okay,
meaning there's no side effects,
right,
it's going to save your life,
100% efficacy against transmission, and blah blah blah.
and if you don't have it, you're going to die. Okay,
Right.
so it's a perfect vaccine, and we have 400 years of data. And all of the data is perfect, locked in. Everyone who has it is fine. Everyone who doesn't have it dies in a week.
Mm-hmm.
You still wouldn't have the right to tell someone they have to take it.
I agree, though. Fundamentally, though, on a principle level, I agree. Let the data speak for itself. Let people choose.
Between you and RFK2.
Yeah.
RFK2 would be a data-driven guy who would say, bend over, you're getting the vaccine.
Yeah, yeah. And then infringing on a number of other rights and privileges, like along the way, and which is. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alden.
I was just gonna say it's like the creating 5 problems to solve 1, and that's why principle thinking is so important. Is to try to like eliminate that effect.
Exactly. As soon as you abandon your principles, and as soon as you abandon the whole principled thinking and basing your decisions off of those sound fundamental principles, every mistake you make, you're going to have to compromise another one of your principles to try to correct it, and you're never going to be able to catch up.
I think of this sometimes as an example, or like a good, kind of a metaphor for this. When there's we have this invasive species, and they're like, let's bring in this other invasive species to eat that species.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh shit, they're eating all this other thing. And it creates 5 other problems. And they're like, now we need to burn the forest to get rid of this thing we brought in to solve the problem. That's what policy is half the time that I see in that style of thinking. Anyway,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And, a lot of people loved his dad, and for good reason. I mean, you talk about a passionate guy who wanted to do the right thing by fellow Americans, and for no other reason than they were fellow Americans, right?
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
And was so motivated, so talented, so smart, so passionate, but he was coming at it from a wrong angle, and I don't know that you can blame him for that. I mean, he went to Harvard, so he's starting with one foot in the hole. It's a deep hole to climb out of.
Like a cultural hole, like a way of thinking, very much.
Yeah, just locked in on how do we wield the tool of government in the most effective way to help the most people possible. That's just where he comes from. And I think that RFK is the modern version of that, which is to say someone who has learned over time that the government colludes, that it's corrupt, that it does a lot of things wrong, and he's here to fix it.
RFK is like Boromir, where he wants to use the ring for good, but it cannot be used for good,
that is freaking perfect. Wow.
Right?
You freaking nerd.
He wants to use it. Yeah,
that's
to
worth
save
8 points
people.
right there. He gets to name the topic next week.
We have a question from Twitter, from Snooze WCMC 23. Got to change that name. That's a lot. If taking 100% of my income is slavery, what percentage is not slavery?
0.
Wait. Say that again. Is this a logic problem?
It's more of a rhetorical.
If I take 100% of your income,
Uh-huh.
then are you my slave? You're not free, right?
So if you take a third of it, what percentage of you are you a slave? Is this like bringing
Yes.
up
No, you're
this
still
problem?
a slave.
What percentage of your income taken from you should not be
So
considered?
taxation is slavery.
0 is the only number.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Because
arriving at.
otherwise, we're just jerking around with where you draw the line. Look, if you are a slaveholder in 1840 and you decide, I'm going to let my slaves do what they want on Thursdays, that does not make you not a slaveholder. That does not make them free.
That is
right?
like uncomfortably accurate in terms of this analogy.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's a really good example. I like that a lot.
If you're gonna slice it in a percentage wise, you're like, that's alarming how much that makes you think about that in that way.
Yeah, I think the point was like once you abandon your principles, you have to start compromising all.
I think he was making fun of my vaccine example.
Maybe could have been a little bit of that. Oh man, Mike, what? It's a big thing. It's a big thing trying to run for president. What are you looking forward to most about the process?
What I enjoy most is interacting with people. And that's always going to, you can't get around that. All the rest of it is sort of either window dressing or administration. We all get creative about how we want things to sound and look. And we all have to go through the administration of hiring this or paying for that or trying to fix some technological problem. All of that is in support of interacting with what we used to call human beings. And the rest of it, doesn't mean a hill of beans if I forgot this might still be a family show.
It's not.
The rest of it doesn't matter a hill of beans if we're not communicating with real people at the end of the day. That's what the rest of it is all about.
Yeah.
And it's best when you can do that, by looking at people. You need to be able to persuade them of your ideas and bring them along. And that's why we're all here. That's why we have a political party.
What does your wife think of the whole process? Because mine would be very hesitant to let me run for anything.
I think hesitant is a good word. She's extremely supportive.
Okay.
It turns out that she's good at it when she joins up. Those are the best events for us when we can do them together. It's not every event at this point. It will be in the future. So that makes every difference in the world, as you might imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going to spell out examples, but I'm guessing that everyone watching this knows what it's like when your life partner is unhappy.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal. And being on the road as much as I am, there are, it is a challenge. It means that either she's going to be alone sometimes or on the road. And not everyone warms to those two choices. So the fact that she's been so supportive means a great deal to me on any number of levels. Also, interestingly, and I'm kind of hoping that she doesn't hear me right now, Nancy has been in the past a registered Democrat. A lot of people have been, right? I've heard that millions and millions of people are similarly afflicted. So we are slowly transing her into libertarianism, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch over the past couple of years. And, to your point, Jake, I'm so proud of her, not because, she's becoming a libertarian. That's cool, whatever, right? Yeah. But that, she's the kind of person that lives with her mind open.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's been a lot of fun for us together, because I got to be careful not to sermon at home, right? and
you don't want that on your conscience. You don't want to shift someone into something that they don't want. You want to just open someone up to choose what's best for them.
What happens if
line.
She turns out to be a libertarian, and then you find out it's only because I beat her into it?
Yeah. Then you come back with, you're like, I didn't need the Corvette. I just wanted the Honda Accord, and you sold them on this other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm in a similar situation. My wife was very liberal Democrat before we started dating, and
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. She's slowly transitioned over to basically almost.
Well, you did live in Los
anarchist.
Angeles, and
yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And speaking of marrying scene. Out of your station, Nikki is terrific.
Yeah.
Nikki.
No, she's
I
wonderful.
called her Nikki for reasons that are yet to be determined, but I didn't hold up my hand first.
So it doesn't
How
count.
about
Yeah.
Nikki?
Yeah,
She's really
it's
wonderful.
been stricken from the record.
Stricken from the record.
Yeah, I definitely when we ever, similar to you, it's better traveling with her and like going to events with her, and it's much easier. She's a people person. I'm far less of a people person. I barely want to be doing this show. So like,
but you're not really with people. You're
in his
with
basement.
me and Alden and Zane and Nick. That I know if we qualify as people, you're in good company.
Jake is like a man of principle, and he'll be driven by principle enough to do people-facing things to support the project. You know, like
that's exactly right. As soon as somebody else who can do what I do comes in, then I'll just go behind the scenes and But I don't trust any one of y'all to do what I do. So.
Oh no, I don't trust me to do it.
Like Jeremy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a question here. Well, I kind of wanted to get into some discussion here because I know you're
I'll be right back,
guy, Mike. And we've got this.
I didn't hear you over Jake announcing he was going to go to the bathroom.
You're an economics guy, and we've got this debt ceiling default issue coming up here.
Yeah.
Let's get into this. What do you think? Are we going to default again? Which they
I
claimed
don't
the first
think
time,
that we
or
will.
You think they're going to raise the debt to continue to pay the debt?
They will continue it because they both share an interest in both not being recognized as idiots by the American public. They share an interest in being able to borrow more money too, which is something that we haven't really focused on, is that they both want to raise that sucker as much as possible. The Republicans just want to, extract a little political mojo from the process along the way. And so does the White House. So, we can appreciate that. But where the interest,
so who comes out winning? It's who's going to move on it? Are they, no one ever actually gets a real deal. So is it going to be Biden and Democrats get their way, or McCarthy's going to pull a little bit from them?
It will be a compromise. He is going to get something from them. They have their staff, respective staffers working on it. And I think that bodes well for a completely unprincipled settlement. So I don't really worry too much about the prospect of a default. By the way, yes, it would be a shame if we had a default, because the U.S. government makes a tremendous amount of money off of having good credit. And if they have crappy credit, we're going to end up paying for it in higher interest rates over time. But
number one export's the dollar, right?
Number one export is the dollar. It's a good business to be in if you can get it. Literally printing money, or cheaper than printing money. We just create electronically.
Yeah.
But it is not true that a default would quickly and automatically doom us to a recession. I believe that we probably have a recession coming next year anyway. And so this is a bit of gaslighting to tell you that this is what would cause us to go into a recession.
Right, because we have a yield curve inversion. So,
well, and it depends on how long that persists, and it's not a very steep one. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I do believe that we're going to have a recession anyway. And the White House is just looking for an excuse to pin more on Republicans.
I wasn't around for the question, Nick, so I don't
have anything
about
to.
Yeah,
you were talking about the debt ceiling default.
The impending default, which probably wouldn't happen on June 1st anyway. There's some reason to believe that it could possibly happen on June 2nd, but my guess is that it would happen even later than that. They would stop paying certain people and shutting certain things down before they literally defaulted on the debt. It is not true, though, that a default on, it would immediately lower our credit rating. It would raise the cost of borrowing new money. It would not raise the cost of carrying the $30 trillion that's already on the books. So it would take a while for it to turn into real money. It is also not true that all of the other interest rates in our economy are geared off of treasuries. They're typically measured off of treasuries, and we talk about yield spreads all the time because we've always, we've been conditioned over the last 100 years to take American government issued bonds as being the bedrock lowest interest rate environment possible. And so we've always measured everything else off of that floor. But if that were to change, it doesn't mean necessarily that all of the other interest rates in the economy would automatically reset.
I got you. One thing I did want to talk on this show of police brutality videos, because they're rampant. They're always happening. It's something bad is always happening that somebody catches on video. I wanted to.
It's awful. It's a good thing that it's caught on video, but it's awful that it happens.
That's fair.
Did we
find
finally
get disappeared or what?
Yeah.
I think he might be audio only at this point, but he kind of fell through. I don't know what he was getting at, but yeah, there's.
Yeah, his point is that a lot of bad things do happen, and recognizing that a big piece of that is the fact that we have more video capability than we used to, and we do have mainstream media in particular and a certain amount of new media as well, with an increasing effort in distributing it. But having said that, there is far too much in the way of bad things happening in police work. I believe that we need to advance police culture to become more in line with community values. Mm-hmm. It is true that police culture has been going in the right direction over the past couple of decades, but too slowly. I think we would all agree on that. And there are some things that we can do about that right away, both in terms of criminal justice reform generally, but also, and I spend a lot of time talking about this, reforming the way we manage police officers. So in terms of criminal justice reform, you got to get rid of the war on drugs. That's a big one, because that's where a lot of the oppression comes from in the form of police and other elements of our criminal justice system that just shouldn't be there. We create through bad public policy the black markets, and then when we crack down on it, we pretend like we're doing something useful. It's really a shame, just literally a shame.
Yeah, you create a problem, then you want an award for when you fix one example within that problem.
Which is what you were talking about just a half an hour ago, is you go down one rabbit hole and then you got to come up with a whole nother set of stupid ideas to fix that.
It's like the Hydra head thing, where then each one has its own problems, and
well, seeing in the unseen, right? I mean, this is basic economics, economics and one lesson stuff here.
Yeah, it's really terrible. And in terms of managing police officers, the direction in which we have to go is to make it much more like other businesses. We need to impose market forces. We need to end up in a situation where, for example, good police officers make a lot more money and mediocre police officers make less money than they are now. And
what a concept. That's interesting.
Officers get fired. What's that?
What a concept. Yeah.
Or individual liability insurance, where someone who's getting sued all the time can't afford to continue.
That's exactly right. We got to replace qualified immunity with a requirement.
Like I have points on your license.
Insurance.
Because I catch, it seems like there's a lot of YouTube channels popping up that I do catch a lot of that are, tackling this issue or playing some of these. But there's also some people, activists that go out there, these, some of these First Amendment auditor guys. There's one that I really like that I've been watching fairly consistently. This guy, Long Island Audit. He goes in. He's a nice guy, and sometimes you get the cops rolling in. They're like, well, you're doing what you do. Nothing you can do. But sometimes, that it's in there, and it's like, oh well, we're gonna, they go out. They find any reason to arrest them or this that. Like I think he got arrested a couple weeks ago in New York City for filming in one of their precincts.
Yikes!
And
wow,
did they actually do something illegal, or do they make it up?
Well, they have a sign that says you can't film there, and he said, "Well, this is a public place that I'm allowed in, so I can film here." And they said, "Well, you're under arrest, apparently."
I was just gonna bring up
it escalated from 0 to. He played the video of it, and it was like a 2-minute video. Like it was like they came in, they're like, "Quit filming." He's like, well, let's talk about this. And they were like chasing them outside, and they grabbed them. They're like, nope, you're.
I was just going to bring up
absurd how quickly some of this.
They should have just moved him outside and had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Well, he was. He was.
Of course, they shouldn't have the rule that you can't record inside.
Because if it's truly a private enterprise, then you can do that. But if it's taxpayer supported, it's a public place. I don't understand how you even feel you have the right to do that. But
the reason, look, I'm not going to defend it, but I will share what the reasoning behind it is. Police departments have, I don't know if traditionally is quite the right term, but over the last 20 years, since we've had a lot of video activity, police departments have largely been told by their local politicians that they don't want recording going in there because there are people that come in there with very, very private issues. You got people coming into the lobby trying to report bad things that happen to them. And I mean, look, I'm not trying to defend this. It's unlikely that this fellow was in there at the moment someone was trying to bring something to police attention, right? I'm not, that's a long shot, right?
Right. Well, it's also like
that's the reason.
He makes it clear that like, hey, there's such things as restricted areas, and all you got to do is have a sign saying restricted, and employees only or whatever, and then those kind of detailed conversations go on back there, and then no one's going to care.
Right. The theory is that they don't want people feeling like they shouldn't go in the lobby because there might be somebody there with a camera, and then all of a sudden it becomes known that they were there. That's the theory. I'm not suggesting it's a good way to go at it.
Right.
It means you gotta, and I've been in this position before, and so have other people. It means you have to be able to explain, right? You got to be able to go in the lobby and say, I'm Officer Doughboy, and the reason we have this policy is because people bring private shit in here. How about we go outside and talk about, we can talk about anything you want to talk about, or my public information officer or my boss or, whatever it's going to take.
Right.
I'm happy to have a conversation with you. But
that's cool and rational. That's a whole different approach.
I mean, he's got,
it is a different approach than is so often the case. And that's unfortunate.
But it's wild, the stuff that he pulls out though. There was one incident I watched him in Connecticut, and he made a big deal because he ended up getting arrested by the same cops because he stayed in the same town doing, he went to the library and pissed them off there, and the cops threw him out under threat of arrest, and then he pulled their body.
How do you piss off the librarian? What was he doing? Whispering too loud?
He wasn't even talking to anyone. He was just filming. They didn't like it. They called the cops. The cops came in. They threw him out under threat of arrest.
There's a rule against recording in the library too?
Apparently, but he pulled the body cam footage, and the one cop who was close to retirement there is like, on the body cam footage is like, 20 years ago he'd have ended up dead with his teeth missing.
Ouch!
Oof.
That's a tough library.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later he got arrested in the same town, and so it turned into it's insane some of the things you see still going on out there. It's on camera too.
That sounds like a department needs a little bit more progress in terms of their police culture.
Turn in your books on time. My God.
What about 4 cents a day? Did you not understand?
Yeah, sorry about my internet connection. It keeps dropping. Right.
Yeah, that's okay.
Are you in civilization? You're not in Montana, are you?
Lose video.
I'm in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
you're in Oklahoma. Why?
Because I'm driving to Montana, and that's on the way. So yeah, I'm at a campsite in the middle of nowhere.
Campsites are known for their good internet, though.
Yeah. She told me that she had good Wi-Fi. Not the case.
Good relative to campsites, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you had this. I thought you had the Elon Musk stuff.
I do, but that's in Montana.
No, it's not on the. You didn't stick it on the van.
I thought Elon Musk provided service whereby which you might have to wait 26 minutes to get re-engaged.
What?
Am I the only one who follows Republicans around here?
Maybe. Might be.
Maybe.
Are you aware that Florida has a governor running for president?
I'm aware. Yeah.
While
he made his announcement on Elon Musk's Twitter yesterday,
and it crashed for I guess it was 26 minutes. Is that the deal?
There you
go. Okay.
And he's trying to run while still being governor and all that, and yeah.
No, yeah. I heard that Twitter crashed when they tried to launch that space. It's freaking hilarious.
There it is. Someone's on top of his game, showing us the articles in a hurry.
Also, why are you doing that on Twitter Spaces where there's no video? It's just you and two other.
I thought that was a weird decision as well.
It's like going back to announcing you're running for president on the radio or something.
But it's a radio in everyone's pocket that they're listening to all the time.
Right. Now that would be kind of cool, but no, I think I would have chosen something with video. I thought that was a weird decision. He was trying to look high tech, but then you got to go for it, right?
Right.
Yeah. You got to set it up to where it's like an event, not just hop on a Twitter space, say I'm running for president, give a 7-minute boring speech, and then hop off. Like wasn't great.
Well, Mike, it sounds like you have a bit of like an understanding of like how this should work in terms of like presenting yourself and making your case and like what media to use. And I'm curious how you feel about your chances here and like your take on media coverage has not been super favorable toward the Libertarian Party in general, but in our day and age with the internet and podcasts and shows like this, do you
not
think
super favorable?
Yeah, that's a generous way of saying. Yeah.
This really is a family hour, isn't it? Okay, so it's not super favorable.
Yeah, we have some more colorful words we could use, of course.
Yeah. Well, we're all on the same page. We know what we're talking about. Look, there are some things that just do stink. And I get that, but there are a lot of things that we can do about it too. For starters, you've got to, I don't even know where to begin because there's like 3 or 4 really, really important fundamental concepts that you need to go after in a real committed way.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is that you need to lead with hard-edged policy that differentiates you from the other parties so that you have a story. I mean, you have to be in the game. You have to be presenting an actual choice. Because if you're not, if you go in there saying, as we talked about earlier, I'm fiscally conservative like a Republican and socially liberal like a Democrat, you're sort of telling NBC not to bother showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not interesting. Would anyone like come interview me?
Right.
Just tactically, never mind this overall strategy, just on a tactical level, you need to message in a way that differentiates, even if you say completely moronic things, which I am not an advocate of, right?
Right. But it works for some.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
You got to hand it to the guy. He presented a different option from the other people in the Republican primary.
Yeah, especially when you have like 16 people up there and to really stand out, and he was a household name already.
And everybody competed for being number 2.
Yeah, right.
And that was real interesting. The other lesson to be learned from Donald Trump, of course, in stark contrast to Gary Johnson, who I have to admit, I mean, I like Gary Johnson. He's a nice guy. He seems, smart.
He wears jeans with blazers,
He wears jeans with blazers. How bad could he be?
Yeah.
He was a governor and he didn't commit any felonies that we know of.
But damn it, he forgot something about Syria, like
yes.
He didn't know Aleppo.
Keep in mind
Aleppo, yeah.
That if I would argue that that's not the reason his campaign imploded. It did implode. The proximate reason was him forgetting what Aleppo was and thinking it was some sort of acronym, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, everything just fell right off the edge. I get that. We all watched it happen right in front of us.
Yeah.
But remember what Donald Trump famously said about his own following. I could probably shoot someone on Fifth Avenue without losing too much support, right?
Yeah.
Not so with Gary Johnson. Let me go out on a limb with your audience and suggest that shooting someone on Fifth Avenue is worse than forgetting the name of a city in Syria.
And then there's the coverage.
Not to mention that whole question, when you look at it in context, was kind of out of nowhere and non sequitur, and you can't really blame a guy for
Of course it was. It was awful. But my point is that people knew why they were supporting Donald Trump. They knew why they despised Donald Trump. Not so with Gary Johnson. He was at double digits in the polls and had not given people enough reason to hang on to him.
Right.
If Donald Trump is at double digits in the polls and forgets the name of a town in Syria, he's like, it's a stupid question. Right. And everyone hangs in there because they know darn well why they love him.
Yeah.
And we need to give people a way to find us and a reason to hang on to us. And that means we need to stand for something. Let me give you an example. If you want to tell people, I don't like inflation. Inflation's bad. People who give us inflation are naughty. And I'm a politician who's against inflation. Don't bother. Do me a favor and get the hell off my TV screen and stay home. Because I can get that from a Republican or a Democrat all day long. Even if it's true. You could be telling me something that's true and important. But if it's what a Democrat or Republican would say, why are you saying it?
It's differentiating. So I'm like a logo and brand designer. And so what's branding is and not, some people have an intuitive idea of like, oh, what's your market? Oh, I want to like beat that. I want to. It's like, no, Apple is. You want to stay. You want to be different than. And I think the Libertarian Party kind of has like a brand conundrum, up against itself there.
I would say that the Libertarian Party has a brand problem. Yeah, conundrum might be the right word, but I would just say that our party stinks at branding. Because
trying to be nice, but
we do not have the cojones to believe in our own principles. We believe in our principles when we argue with each other, and then we send people out there to represent us that have no interest whatsoever in representing those principles, and that is a real problem. So that's the first thing you have to do, is to give people a reason to pay attention to you and hang on to you.
Yeah. We've talked about the problem, like the fundamental issue among libertarians, or at least, how I kind of feel is like that live and let live, like free to do whatever, but not as much the like shove it down someone's throat thing. And so you have two really squeaky loud wheels. And then there's the one that's like, oh, I don't want to, like put that on anybody, but then mentally ends up falling a little in the conversation sometimes because of our own values sometimes.
Right. And we think that saying live and let live is enough of a message, as though the Republicans are going to go out there and say, let's shoot and kill everyone outside the United States. And the Democrats are going to say, let's tax the shit out of everybody and control everyone with video cameras in everyone's kitchen. That's not how it works. You need a more sophisticated message than that, but at the same time, you need to be able to tell people the truth. You need to tell people, yeah, Social Security is evil. That's right. I said it. And anyone who says otherwise is either not very smart or not being very honest with you.
Or we're told that it's something other than what it is, and we're misled. And culturally is the problem of like, and then just we think that it's safe because it's been here for forever. And,
it's been here forever and it's not safe. It's running off the edge. And you need to decide whether you want to be on that vehicle or off of it. And I say we give your grandchildren a way to get off of it. And the same thing with our anti-war message. This idea of saying, oh, we think that Republicans are too hawkish and Democrats waste too much money. No, war is evil. And anyone who says that it's okay to take your money forcibly and blow it on projecting military hegemony is not your friend.
So we talked about this.
Say that.
We talked about this. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. How would you feel, Mike, about like when it came time for taxes, if you were to check certain boxes and be like, war is not one of the things that I support with my taxpayer money at all, like just not for that, you know what I mean, on an individual basis, and let people choose what they want their money to go toward or not. Okay. If you're going to have taxes,
That would be great, but Zane's form is going to have everything crossed out, right?
Yeah, and that's
he's going to be offered police, no, water, no. He's going to write in the bottom, and you can take my sidewalk and shove it up. Right? That's what Zane is going to put on there. And I'm not sure he's wrong about that.
Don't get me started about those roads.
No more sidewalks. Yeah.
Right. And sell the streets to someone who can charge a decent fee with a transponder.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful concept, but a lot of us are going to be crossing off a lot of stuff.
And that would be interesting to see how few things people really cared about when it came to it. And it might call attention to just how big and ugly this machine has gotten.
And maybe the way you go at that is with a referendum, because I'm not sure we're going to get the IRS for as long as it survives. Under my administration, we would sunset the IRS in favor of a federal government that was required to go directly to state legislatures to raise any money at all, and have the state legislatures stand up on our behalf and tell them to go pound sand.
No one would miss the IRS.
As long as the IRS still exists, I don't think that they're going to go for your checkoff idea, as much fun as it is. But maybe we could go with a referendum.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you had, a state legislature, you can beat into it. Or maybe you could start with a county that would agree to holding a referendum that would give everyone a check
start
off.
smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think is worth it. We're not going to hold ourselves to it because we're slimy politicians, but we do want to know what you think.
I think people would like it if it saved them money and if it took less taxes, but then was more focused and efficient. Then I would be for that, at least as a step.
The majority of people voted down blowing money on the new swimming pool, then so be it.
Yeah,
it'd be a reversal to like a bond issuance referendum.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert wants to know, how does someone become a local volunteer for your campaign?
You call me, you go to the website, you can fill out the form, the I want to be a volunteer form. It requires lots of information. You have to let us do a credit check, a background check. We send the FBI out to your home and they interview
DNA
you.
test, urine sample.
And we need your social security number and your bank account and routing number.
No, you can trust Robert. He was correct about the serving temperature of dark beer, so he's all right.
Okay, all right, never mind.
Yeah, he's
just
fine.
Go to the volunteer form and fill it out. Or what I would do, because I'm not a big fan of forms, and I know Zane is not filling out any damn form. I know that. And by
only
the way,
to enter trivias,
If he did fill out the form, I'm afraid of what he would say in the free form box there. So,
you do not want to hear my
no, exactly. So maybe skip the form, go directly to my contact information. There's contact information for like 6 or 7 people on our team, but they're all, who knows what they do during the day. Skip all those people. Go directly to my contact information. And you'll see my email address and my phone number there. That's the real deal, by the way. That's my real phone number.
That's cool.
And my real email address. If you call me on the phone, I'm probably not going to know who the hell you are. I may not answer it. But you could text me. You could leave me a voicemail. I sometimes listen to my voicemail using the speaker function on my phone, so don't say anything totally obnoxious that Nancy would have to hear. But you could leave me a message, and I will call you back or something like that, or text you back. You could voicemail me, I'll text you, you phone call me, I'll email you, and we'll eventually figure it out.
Do you have a pager?
Yeah, I got
What about a Palm Pilot?
A Palm Pilot.
Wait a minute, did you put my MySpace account up there? People can get a hold of me? That's important. Mike at AOL. Who cares?
Right.
No, go to the website and at MikeTermaat.com. You'd have to spell it right, so that's tricky. You can also go to goldnewdeal.org and read about our platform. It's very exciting. It's so exciting it has its own URL. That's how you know. What do you mean tried? I did. I put it back. I did. I reached the wallet, but I chose not to take it out.
Trump's got the art of the deal. You've got the art of the steal.
Pretty good.
Just want everyone to know you can,
Yeah.
I just want to know. I want you to know that I can, and then I left it in there anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's like, oh, go ahead.
If we've got a second, I want to cover some interesting little LP Twitter beef that went on this week.
Great.
Jamie, you want to pull that up?
No higher calling than to cover the LP Twitter fights.
Yeah.
Good God. Yeah, this one.
Yes,
What's
this one.
Say? I may not be familiar with this. What's going on?
Okay, so Jared Polis is the sitting governor of Colorado, and he's being pushed by organizations such as Reason Magazine seem to really like him and call him the most libertarian.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people like him. I don't know much about him, but I've heard a lot of people like him.
So LP Colorado was attacking him, which apparently they do fairly often because, lockdown, gun grabber, nothing libertarian about the guy.
Right.
But so there was a
good
Twitter
for them.
piece.
The LP Colorado people are very smart.
They are good people. At least the ones I've met have been good. But so they've been going back and forth there, and the national account jumped in and was going at it, and I think some of the other state accounts were going at it. The Mises Caucus, everyone going at it, taking swings there.
Yep.
And
he's a big target. Everyone can grab a piece.
He's a big target, but there's a whole lot of people LP related in the comments who are like, "Oh, you should try to talk to him on Twitter and convince him he's being wrong, rather than calling him a tyrant like he is."
He's a sitting governor. He's a sitting governor.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to move him. He's committed to his policies. And by the way, even if his policies were wonderful, you're committed to your policies because of everything that has led up to your election. He's got some principles, as messed up as they are. He's got a lot of supporters. People have supported him with their hard work, with their money, with their vote. He's hired hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to surround him, all of whom buy into this particular vision that he has sold them. No, he is not turning into a libertarian anytime soon. And I do believe that, although I haven't read the material, so don't get me wrong, if someone said something completely inappropriate, then that's too bad. But I do believe that you've got to point out where a sitting politician is just flat wrong, and the extent to which they are. This is what we're talking about in terms of differentiating ourselves from these other politicians. Our job is not to find common ground with them. Our job is to show the American public where we have a hard edge, where we don't overlap.
Right, and I think these public spats, especially with governors and things like that, are only a good thing for the party. I mean, that shows the real differentiation.
That's
there's
exactly
a whole lot of,
right.
They're out. There's, if you look through the comments, there's a lot of names that are LP related, in there saying, more concerned about, you tweeted that he belongs in a cell, blah blah blah. How libertarian, believing in prisons. Oh, look at you hypocrites. It's like, well, come on. We're talking about a politician here
metaphor,
exactly, but also we're talking about a guy who, as said there, locked down his state for months, told people they were
non-essential.
That's the word. And then is passing all sorts of anti-gun legislation as well as whatever else, right? So I mean,
but they got mushrooms.
Violation of individual
Alden always
rights
trying
there
to find the silver lining. I'm trying.
There's one thing,
is that Colorado wide or only Denver?
No, I think it was Denver.
Yeah, it's just Denver. I mean, Colorado has some idiotic laws. That's one reason why we didn't buy land in Colorado.
Right. You can get to Montana without driving through Colorado from Oklahoma.
Yes. Yeah, which I will be.
But
yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up because there seem to be a lot of people in the comments who I know are LP related that don't like the fact that we were picking
example. And you know what? God bless the libertarians who do want to reach out and find a conversation and try to convince people, because I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful attitude. And it is indeed the attitude that we need to maintain 98% of the time, because we're reaching out to voters, right? Mm-hmm. Reaching out to voters that we can sway to our way of thinking, but just as importantly, recognize that we share a way of thinking, and you're trying to sway them to vote for us. That's all good. That's the right attitude. But a sitting politician, no. Politicians are not leaders. Politicians are followers. Politicians are representatives of the people who support them. You quite literally cannot sway a successful politician.
And shapeshifters, they've already been swayed, and they swayed themselves.
Exactly. They will
into
shift
form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No amount of philosophical argument is going to push them in a direction that does not align with their political self-interest.
Because they didn't philosophically arrive at where they did. So
I mean, the best interest, I think the best example of that is that Donald Trump was the first president to be elected supporting gay marriage, right? Barack Obama was opposing it in his first term. It's not until the Democrats, swayed the other way that he went.
And Donald Trump used to be a Democrat.
Right?
Yeah. And then he said that if he ran, he would.
Whatever else
his political opponent in the election had attended his wedding as a friend.
Yeah, it's all
Talk
theater.
About shapeshifter. I can't even say it. Talk
about his son is engaged to the ex-wife of Gavin Newsom. I mean,
I'm sorry. What did you say?
His son, Don Jr. Is engaged to Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's like the ex-wife, I believe, of Gavin Newsom.
Wow.
Interesting.
They're lizard people.
I'm trying to get my brain around that.
It's an interesting family tree.
The other day, I was like, "What?" And then
that sounds like something Zane would hold up his hand for.
Because if you look at it, you'll find video of Gavin Newsom talking somewhat half nice about Trump because there's a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah. There's more of a connection than we're led to believe in a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good picture of Hillary, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, it was 100 years ago, though.
Yeah, Bill's already got gray hair in that picture.
Alden, I heard you mentioning earlier that when Trump, 20, 30 years ago, said he was going to run, he'd do it as a Republican.
Yeah,
because they're dumb.
But not on principle, but on the voter, he could sway the voting population of the Republican Party, and that he knew that was culturally his easiest ticket to winning.
And he was right.
And he was right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
dude,
he was right.
I searched for that video when he won, or when he was running. I searched for it. Somebody did a really good job of scrubbing that video from the internet.
Have you seen the video of him serving in 1992 as his own PR guy?
No.
Have you guys not seen this? You've got to see this. By the way, Elizabeth, your earlier comment was absolutely spot on regarding
that one.
The oxymoron of libertarian Democrat and atheist Christian. Having been raised by a Lutheran and a Calvinist, I absolutely appreciate that.
That's interesting.
And both of my parents are Democrats too. So thank you for all of that. You have got to see the video. I'll get a link to you somehow. I don't have it with me now.
Let's see if Jamie can find it.
Yeah.
I think I called him Jeremy earlier. Get Jamie to find it. There is MSNBC broadcast it about 6 or 7 years ago, but it's been all over. It's a video. It's a video on YouTube, but it's only audio. Okay, there's an audio recording of Trump telling a reporter, "I'm not Donald Trump. My name is John."
Oh, the phone
Miller.
Call? Yeah, I've heard that.
And I'm Donald Trump's PR guy, and he starts answering questions.
But he chose a new name?
Yeah, he just says, I'm Donald Trump's PR guy. I'm John Miller.
Interesting.
And I'm here to answer questions. And he talks about how great Trump is and how much action he's getting.
This is like dissociative identity disorder almost. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. My friends and I have an inside joke. I like to answer the phone. Mike Ter Maat's office, this is Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like to pretend like I'm so rich and powerful. I've got people answering my phone for me, right?
Yeah, and if someone has anything bad to say about you, you don't want to dissuade them from telling you. You want the honest truth.
That's exactly right. I mean, I've gone for 15 minutes with Billy on the phone, but it's only with people I know, right? Because it's funny. I would never do it to someone I don't know,
right?
Which is what Trump is trying to pull off.
Right.
All right, let's play the video. Let's go for it.
Oh,
Zach.
you found it?
Looks like
Well,
it.
that was fast.
Oh,
Yeah, play it if you want. It's hysterical.
Maybe
That was
not.
just a video about it. I don't have the real thing yet.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Well, maybe the recording is embedded in it. You'll have to check that out. It's good stuff, though. You'll really enjoy that.
Mike,
I threw up the Wikipedia link there, Zach. If Jamie, if backing up what I said about Don Jr.
Yeah, no, I saw that one here. I can share that one to the screen.
Jake, what time are we going till tonight?
We're running at the end right now, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I got to pee my diaper sitting here.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we're all in. We're at that point.
Yeah, but we do have one question for you, Mike, from Sports Grumbling on Twitter. When are you coming to San Diego? Is what he wants to know.
I was not in the San Diego area last year. When am I coming to San Diego? I will probably not be in San Diego until January, I'm sorry to say.
That's a good time to go, though, when everything else is freezing.
It is a good time to go, and I have not been to San Diego for quite a few years. I really like San Diego, and not just because it's full of sailors, not because it has incredible views from that park up on the big hill, the name of which I can't remember.
San Diego.
Yes. And not just because it's got fantastic beaches, fantastic people, and fantastic weather. Those are all terrific reasons. But the culture there, the conversations you can have. I just find people that live in San Diego to be so warm and welcoming. I think I don't want to say a completely unique culture, but it's a place where you can really have a down-to-earth good time. I'm a big San Diego fan.
Right on.
I don't know what happened to me. Yeah, I don't know what's happening on my end, but we're definitely coming to the end of the show. Yeah, Oklahoma. I don't like you right now.
If I can get a couple last points here.
All right,
yeah,
go.
I'm
Nick.
curious on a couple things. Right. So we talked a little bit about your messaging. I guess, how do you plan on reaching people, right? I mean, you're going to a bunch of LP events, LP conventions. I was at, I live in PA now. I was in Florida, so I in Georgia. So I saw you in Georgia. I saw you in PA. But how do you reach out beyond our circles, especially with the alternative media that is available now?
On the other side of the nomination you're talking about.
Yeah, well, even building up to it, I mean, there's the opportunity to bring people in before we get into conventions, to get delegates, to win people, bring people in.
There is. I think that's the wrong strategy. I think that's the wrong strategy. And let me explain why.
If I could just,
what this is all about is taking advantage of the opportunity to have a political nominee. In other words, without the nomination, we could do everything that we would normally do anyway. You and I could be knocking on doors, getting on podcasts, doing interviews with newspapers, passing out stuff in the Walmart parking lots. We've all done that. I've run for Congress before. I've done that. I've supported other candidates. We've all done that. And those are good things to do. I'm not poo-pooing them. Those are wonderful things to do. This is about something that's a little bit different. This is about how do you take advantage of the process that the United States people, the American public, have through a variety of weird institutions put together as a process that has created an opportunity. That's a different animal. Something different is going to take place on the other side of May, whatever it is, May 20th, 2024. After the nomination, there will be a different opportunity than the day before. And that's because the third largest party in the United States will have a nominee for president of the United States. That inherently creates a different opportunity than the week before. The issue is, how do you take advantage of that opportunity?
Right. Because the last thing I want to see whenever this comes down is, hashtag let her speak, whining about the debates. We know that debates aren't going to happen. We have to get media outside of it. And I mean,
that's right.
Facts are facts, right? I mean, the chance of any libertarian winning is basically zero. I mean, it's
I don't agree with that either, but keep going.
realistically, it's almost zero. So
I don't agree with you, but keep going.
So what we have to bring the right message out, and we have to get it as wide as possible, and build off of that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that all has to do with taking advantage of the opportunity of having a nominee for the third largest party. That has to be what it is you're standing on. If you're doing the same thing June 1st that you were doing May 1st, you're doing something really, really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be taking advantage of the fact that there are only 3 people left. So you have to build a good story. We touched on a piece of that, which is differentiation, right? In Gary Johnson's case, he did several things right. Number one, he was a candidate that was credible from the standpoint of public policy and a commitment to public service. So naturally, a certain number of donors, a certain amount of the media were willing to give him some deference. Voters were willing to give him a look. It's why he made it to double digits in the polls.
He was one of the people I had seen on news at that time for the party. Like, oh, sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, I apologize. I couldn't hear.
Yeah.
Oh, I was at the, he was one of the people that one of the only people for the party that I had seen on regular coverage, main media coverage, as much as he was.
Yeah.
It was one of the first.
Alden, you're breaking up a lot, buddy.
Oh no, try.
Well, I think Alden's point, I think what he said was that he did get attention that a lot of other people didn't. And a huge piece of that was the fact that he was a very credible candidate because of his background.
Mm-hmm.
The very professional campaign that we're running and my 2 careers in public service are going to give us a swing at that. That we did not get in the last cycle because, and I do not mean this disrespectfully, but the truth must be said. If you're a media outlet, are you giving Jo Jorgensen an interview?
Joe Rogan voted for her and refused to have her on.
That's not what I asked you.
Right. I'm just pointing. I'm putting out a fact there, right?
And it is an interesting and good fact. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is that Jo Jorgensen had neither the messaging, the campaign, or the personal background to pull off achieving the threshold qualities that American media, American donors, and American voters look for before they'll give you some serious consideration. It doesn't matter how good your philosophy is because the American public believes this is a personal competition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, you could have the greatest philosophy since Gandhi, but if they can't at least imagine you being qualified to go all the way and running the White House, why am I bothering to pay attention? I'm not paying attention because I'm interested in a philosophy lesson. I'm paying attention because there's a competition among credible entrants. And so we need to put forward a campaign that takes advantage of that and differentiating us. And so what we're giving the media is a credible, dark horse, long shot, underdog story. That's what the media liked about Gary Johnson, but found absolutely no reason to pay attention to Jo, as much as I like her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. Nick, you have any other thoughts, questions?
No, I mean that's the big thing that I'm just.
It is a big thing, and it should be. I mean, I hope you don't think I'm trying to blow off your question. I think that is the question. But I also believe that the type of campaign that we're putting together, I got to be honest with you, is the answer.
All right.
Oh, I hate to keep everyone around, but Brian asks a really, really good question here.
Let's hear it. I don't see it.
In
Georgia, we have a lawsuit threatening our ballot access. It will hopefully fail, but if it doesn't, I have to ask how much of your campaign will target Georgia in particular. So, the big issue right now is the president. Are you aware of the situation there? Rose v.
Bit, enough to understand the fundamental point of the question.
The presidential races is going to be the only race that potentially makes a difference to keep the
That
ballot
can
access
qualify. And you need to get
required.
to something like 5%. I don't remember.
2%. It's going to be about 2%.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, 1% of all registered voters would have to vote for the presidential candidate. It's only been done once in Georgia.
Okay, in that
Gary
case, I don't think it warrants a disproportionate visit. If we don't carry 5% nationally, you can have my house.
All right. I'll take it. No, I'm kidding.
I like that a lot.
We need to reach double digits in the polls on the off chance that there is actually a series of debates. I tend to side with Nick on this. I'm not optimistic that there will be debates, but the chances of there being debates is not zero. It's quite possible. It's also quite possible that to the extent to which there are debates, that they're held in a fairly non-traditional way. I also believe they need to get to double digits in the polls fairly early in order to take advantage of the media that comes with that per se. It's a snowball effect. One of the things that we didn't talk about is the tactic of spending money. One of the things that some of our national campaigns have done incorrectly in the past is to spend the money evenly over a period of time. That's
instead of heavy up front.
Incorrect. If you've got $400,000 in the bank, you're doing something wrong. You got to spend that by Thursday at 5 because you need to get the ball rolling. You need to put a stake in the front yard and understand what that represents and let everyone have a chance at finding you. And so you need to do that early and make people believe that this is for real. So that has to take place.
You also said the keyword believe.
What's that?
Believe too. You said the keyword believe. So like in just not creating, the self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing of like, oh, it can't happen or whatever. It's like to spend the money as if it's real, right? Don't hold on to the money for the next one or whatever, because then you're crippling yourself that way. Spend the money as if it's real, build the groundswell and believe yourself and get others to believe, because belief is kind of a contagious
You're exactly right. There is no value in flaming out slowly.
No.
If you're going to crash and burn, get it done in June.
Then you're not a winner or a martyr. You're just forgotten, yeah.
Right. Roll it all out in June. If people think that you're worthless and they don't like your philosophy or the way you part your hair, you might as well find out, well, it's nice outside. There's no point in spending your money evenly week by week all the way through October.
I don't like how Jake parts his hair.
It's abysmal. That's why I don't like being on camera. Well, y'all, I think that's about it.
Our co-host who's not here because we had Steve's question.
Okay.
I had to figure out. I have to find where it's at.
No, we got plenty of time. We're only at 2:07.
Exactly. Well, our co-host Steve couldn't make it because he had to go to his niece's 5th grade graduation, which is apparently a thing.
A thing.
So he asked if we could ask
nieces are a thing or 5th grade graduation are a thing.
Both,
nieces
I guess.
Are a thing. Hashtag nieces are a thing. Yeah.
All right. He asked if you could elaborate a bit on why living in separation is better than a national divorce.
Yes. National divorce. Look, that's a term of art that some people mean one way and some people mean another. Do you mean secession? Maybe, that's what we should tackle first, if that's what you mean by national divorce. Look, people don't. There are a couple of problems with secession. One is that it's a political non-starter. People just don't want to live in another country other than the United States. When people talk about secession, they typically mean they want you to live in a different country other than the United States. So that's a problem. The other problem is that secession means state by state breakup. And culturally, this doesn't make sense. If you're going to break us up into two groups or more than two groups, you're going to have to split states, right? It makes no sense to split up Oklahoma and Texas from California and Oregon, but try to convince Springfield and Chicago that they should both remain in Illinois.
Or in my case, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, because
or in your case, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. That is a great example, even though they can't even see each other over those godforsaken hills.
Nope.
If I make that drive one more time, I'm going to have to buy a new truck. So anyway, secession has some sort of what I would call administrative and political problems. The other one is that for 99% of the American population, basically everyone but Zane, people still feel that there's a little bit of value left in the American government on a potential basis. Then on a net basis, the whole thing stinks and we'd be better off without it, lock, stock, and barrel. But people have not given up on the notion that there must be something that the U.S. federal government could do that would
Is that a sunk cost fallacy, though? Is that a sunk cost fallacy?
It may
maybe. Yeah.
It may be, but politically speaking, without carrying on the argument right now, let me just force my way through this because we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I know you wanted an answer. Without trying to settle the argument about whether we should all be minarchists or anarchists, politically speaking, even the majority of libertarians believe that the world would be better off if we didn't completely sunset the United States of America, that there is still a modicum of potential left in our Constitution that's worth fighting for.
Mike, I've just got to say that I think you're a bit more of an anarchist than you think that you are, because going back to an hour ago, we were all sitting here agreeing how the correct rate of taxation is 0%. If you really believe that, you can't have a government. You can't have a government if you're not going to tax people, and I would say that you shouldn't tax people because, you were also saying earlier how, if we're going to have a government, what it should do is protect people. But the idea of having a government to protect people is, logically inconsistent, because the idea is that we need to prevent people from getting raped and murdered. So we're going to go around stealing from people and murdering them if they don't give us the money.
Yes. Now, without explicitly agreeing with you, let me flip back to Alden asking, how we're going to message our way through the general election. The first thing we're going to do is to muzzle Zane, okay? Because he speaks so much truth that it's going to be hard to say, the kid's an anarchist, don't pay any attention to him.
So
I never advocate any violence. I never do that.
No.
We don't. Yeah.
And neither do I, as far as you know. So the idea is in our platform in the Gold New Deal, the idea is to give states a constitutional vehicle for opting out of federal supremacy and to opt into being able to pursue unilateral nullification, so that to the extent to which there is a divergence between federal law and state law, you'd be able to settle it at the state level, including, by the way, and importantly, in state court. And in this way, you'd be able to chart your own political future as a state. We believe that that's very important. We believe that some states will appreciate that. A lot of states won't, which is fine too. You do have an option to remain blind and silly. But we believe that a lot of states will appreciate the option. And in the same vein as offering people an opt-out from Social Security, I believe that is the way to begin the conversation to give states this option. It's much harder to argue against an option than it is to argue against an order or a proposal to just go full secession.
Nice. I wanted to offer a take on Stephen's question from before about the living in separation versus the divorce, and more of a cultural than the full-on literal secession thing, but just a cultural concept of living in separation is hey, we got to work this out, we got a kid together, that kind of thing. And then divorce being that winner take all, fight for everything, and maybe trying to have a little bit more of that rational compromise, as opposed to that I'm right, you're wrong, and we're gonna fight to the death on it, as a nation divided as a concept.
I get that. I'm not optimistic that there's a dichotomy that actually works in the context of political vehicles, because I don't think I think the ship may have sailed
Or
in
sank.
terms of the Democratic and Republican parties, and they're the ones that are propagating this this idea that we need to punch each other in the face.
They are, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
reinforced by media, which is. It's
I would
all a
argue
circus,
that at least in part it grows out of the media, but certainly there's an echoing back and forth between the parties and their respective.
Yeah, it's the
aligned
chicken and the
views.
egg story of them. Who started it? We don't know, but it's definitely a feedback loop. Yeah.
That is well said, and this is, of course, this is where authoritarianism comes from in a democracy. It comes from the idea that each party or one party, or at least one individual,
Right.
sells people on the idea that this individual needs more power, I need more latitude, I need more authority per se.
And
Because
usually
what you have-
emergencies are the thing that it's either war or a virus or whatever, and we're like, oh,
what you
it has
have
to
to
because of
fear
this thing.
is that
this-
other
yes.
idiot coming to power. I'm here to protect you.
Yeah. They
And
use
you-
fear. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and to leverage that fear, or at the very least that disdain for the other side, and,
Mhm.
and that's what that is all about.
Negative emotion, hate or fear. Yeah.
Yeah, and boy, haven't the parties gotten very, very good at leveraging that. And
Oh my
and
goodness.
identifying that. You look at immigration as, I think, one of the primary examples where neither party seems to have a great interest in coming to any sort of an agreement.
Mhm.
Whereas
Yeah.
they do seem to each have, albeit polar opposite, an interest in keeping the argument going.
Fair.
For sure. Well, yeah, we're definitely going to end it there because we're way past time. Alden just had to chime in and ask another question.
Sorry.
You can
I'm the
blame
one that had
Alden.
to-
You can blame Alden for this whole episode.
But
Blame me
it
for
fits
anything.
everything we've been talking about. We hate Congress, but we love our congressmen, right? We
Mhm.
hate too much spending, but we like this particular program. We hate running over, but I've got one question left.
Yeah.
It's the
I'm,
same theme.
I'm the one that has to pee the most, I
That's
think. And I ask the
exactly right.
question. Like,
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on our show, man. We really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
guys.
it.
You're a lot of fun. We're doing
Absolutely.
it next week at 8 o'clock again. Is that right?
Whenever you want to join, you are welcome to. Just reach out to Jamie.
I
and
won't
he'll
abuse
send
your
you a
audience that badly. We'll wait a while.
link. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in to the Free Georgia podcast on Monday nights / Tuesday mornings. And tune in next week. We'll be right back here, 8 p.m. Eastern for Liberty Libations. Go to MikeTermaat.com to learn more about his run for president.
And to free Georgia.
All right, y'all. We'll see you later.
cheers.